Tim was an average man who lived an average life. He had a wife, 2 kids, a small house, and a stable job. He was never really remarkable, but didn't particularly struggle. He had always been in good health, never gone to the hospital for any reason, but was never in peak physical condition. He wasn't particularly attractive, but no one ever found him unappealing. He was simply Tim. And everyone was perfectly fine with that. Working as a secretary in accounting, Tim sat on the 37th floor, right next to the elevator. He would watch people come and go, one ping of the elevator after another, all day, every day. His co-workers would enter. Hi, Tim. Good morning, Tim. How's the family, Tim? And Tim would respond with a nod and a smile. And everyone was perfectly fine with that. On one less remarkable day, Tim was simply sitting at his desk, waiting for the end of his shift. Everyone else had gone home early. Bye, Tim. See you tomorrow, Tim. Have a nice night, Tim. Tim hadn't gotten the memo, but still, Tim waited until the end of his shift. Hiya, Tim, said a friendly voice. How you doing? Oh, said Tim. Hello, Mike. Doing anything special tonight? Let's catch up. Bring the family over. Mike walked to the elevator and pressed the button. And the elevator pinged. Now, Tim did not particularly like Mike. It was not a loathing hatred, but more of a gut feeling. The way that he coiffed his hair, his cologne he always applied a little too heavily, and his constant smile. It was off-putting. Mike was just ever so slightly too much. Well, said Tim with a slight chuckle, I don't know about that, Mike. Tim looked down to the drawers of his desk, pretending to look for something important. The two waited in silence. I usually just snooze as soon as I get home, said Tim, now made uncomfortable by the silence, but still not wanting to look at Mike and invite an actual conversation. The two waited longer in silence. It felt like the elevator couldn't come soon enough. Tim, feeling as though he had been staring at the ground for a ridiculous amount of time, finally relented. I think I get off work early on Tuesday. Tim looked up. He saw nothing. Confused, Tim looked around. Mike wasn't standing off to the side or next to the elevator. Maybe Tim had just not heard the elevator ping. That must be it. Tim had just gotten so carried away in his work that he had not heard Mike get on the elevator and go home. Tim got up from his chair and, wanting to confirm his theory, called the elevator to him. Ping! The door opened right away, but there was no elevator. The door opened to an empty elevator shaft. Now, Tim knew that he wasn't the brightest bulb in the building, but between Tim not trusting the intelligence of Mike and understanding that no one comes to the elevator just to leave and go down 37 flights of stairs, Tim was pretty sure he had just witnessed the death of Mike. Tim now had to figure out the answer to his next question. What the hell was he supposed to do? Tim, being the average man that he was, had never been witness to a death. Does he report it? To Tim, that feels like the right option. But how does that conversation go? Hello? Yes, officer. I think that my coworker just fell to his death in an elevator shaft. No, I didn't push him, but I did watch it happen. Was Tim now responsible for his death? If he had taken the elevator today instead of the stairs, today was Stairs Wednesday for Tim. He needed that work donut today. He would have learned that the elevator was broken and alerted Mike. Tim was now on the lam. He needed to get away. Move to Slovakia. Do they speak English in Slovakia? It feels like they shouldn't. But Tim had never left New York City, so he didn't know. The furthest he had ever gone was East 14th Street, so Slovakia might be a little out of his comfort zone. What if he moved just past East 14th Street? Maybe First Avenue? Do something minor that no one would ever think of. Wait, was that even in the same direction? Tim didn't know geography very well, as he had gotten a very average grade in secondary school. Tim had always called it secondary school, even though by all accounts he was an American and should have called it middle school. Oh my God! Mike is dead! If Tim was being perfectly honest with himself, it was all Mike's fault. Now, Tim knew never to speak ill of the dead, but Mike was a dumbass. How do you fall down an elevator shaft? Do you just not look? There was obviously no floor. That feels like a dead giveaway. However, Tim can't say, "Hello, officer. This man was a dumbass. Case solved." What if the officer was also an idiot? They might get offended on behalf of Mike. If Tim was being even more honest with himself, this would never happen to him. Everybody knows that elevators are statistically more likely to have issues on Wednesdays. That's why Tim would never not take the stairs on Wednesdays. If you take the elevator, you really are just asking for it. Coming back to reality for a moment, Tim thought of what to do. He wasn't going to call the police. He didn't particularly want to get arrested or go on the lam. But Tim did know that there were no cameras near the elevator. On Thursdays, Gertrude would bring in vodka for the billing department, and it would accidentally come to Tim's floor. She was always so nonchalant about it, so Tim finally put 2 and 2 together after a few months.
Oh, Gertrude.
But Tim realized he didn't have to do anything. He could just go home, and no one would have any evidence. Obviously, there would be a huge media hurricane the next day. There would be newscasters, bright lights. Tim would have to give his story. It was a normal day, like any other. It's so sad to think that Mike is actually gone. We were such close friends. Tim would get a vacation for once. He had always wanted to go to Delaware. Such an odd name. It had to be interesting somehow. But Tim knew he would be interviewed, get on TV, and people would know his name. He didn't know if it would be all good or bad, but Tim knew it would be interesting, which was better than his life right now. And he was perfectly fine with that. Tim sat down at his desk, leaned back, and closed his eyes, envisioning his new life. He heard a familiar voice. Bit dreamy there, Tim. It was Mike. Sorry, I just ran off. Can't believe I forgot the birthday presents for the twins. Oh, said Tim. Oh. Mike called the elevator. Ping! So, I didn't actually catch your response, asked Mike. You able to make it to the party tonight? Oh, totally. I'm actually heading home right now. We'll take the elevator together. Tim got up and stood shoulder to shoulder with Mike, directly in front of the elevator. Ping! The elevator doors opened. And Tim pushed Mike down the elevator shaft. And Tim was